I wasn't going to go there this quick, but I like have such a question of, I share my life on social media so deeply. And you even just saying like, I have so much empathy for the version of me then. How do you do this in the public eye of sharing all of these versions of yourself and people coming up to you maybe and saying, oh my gosh, you lost 90 pounds. Tell me about that. And bringing up these versions of you so often, which is a beautiful thing because they can relate to it. And it's so amazing that they want to talk about it. But how do you have that empathy and protect yourself and love yourself of these versions that do come up so often with being in the light?
Such a great question. And I was just talking about this, but to be honest, I think when I first started telling my weight loss story, it was a little bit of a dissociation thing where I like wasn't really in my body and I was just telling it. And people kept asking me the same question. So I kept telling it to the point where I like wasn't connected anymore to the story. Because the truth of my weight loss is it wasn't, to me, it wasn't just a weight loss. It was like an overhaul of who I am. It was like the first time in my life that I faced the pain of my childhood head on. And I really was honest with myself about my situation and just a complete like identity search. Like I found my purpose. I figured out who I am. And it wasn't easy. It was very painful for me. And it wasn't linear progress. It was very much like, you know, one foot in front of the other every day. I had no idea that I would end up where I am now. So I think the work that I've done had to be offline, you know? So like I do share a lot and I'm not quite sure why I'm so easygoing about being so vulnerable. I think it is from in my childhood, in my household, I had to attune to my parents rather than the other way around because it was a pretty explosive household. Mental health was a problem in my household. So I had to figure out how it was everyone else feeling that day. And it was very inconsistent. So I got good at communicating my feelings and like trying to figure out what was going on and kind of performing for people around me and making them feel good and figuring out, you know, how does my family feel today? Like, what can I do for them today? So I think that's made me good at sharing. But behind the scenes, I have to do a lot of inner work, therapy, having conversations with friends like this, just being really honest to figure out. I mean, I have epiphanies every day, I feel like, about my journey. And then I think the podcast has been really transformative for me because Instagram, you can only really share so much. And I always felt like people don't really know me, you know, because I think people know me for that before and after photo. And it's such a like small glimpse at my life in my head. Like I feel like it doesn't really summarize who I am. So yeah, I think that's such a good point, the public side of it.
Yeah, I relate to that so much. And honestly, even with my weight loss, it's so easy to comment on the weight. It's so easy to see, like, the obvious is the physical. Like, you look different on the outside. When in your weight loss journey did you actually realize, oh, this wasn't just a weight loss thing? This wasn't just me being overweight. This sounds like a lot of inner child work that you've been doing from way back when that was buried down and expressing itself through coping, through food and lack of movement and all the things that you've prioritized now.
The second that I started paying attention to what I was putting in my body and the way I was treating my body and even just keeping my own promises, like that was a big thing for me. Okay, I told myself I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow, or I'm going to do an extra walk tomorrow, or I'm going to make a healthy dinner tomorrow. Just by like showing up for myself and keeping those promises, I was like, feel like more confident than I ever have before. And it's weird.
And day in and day out.
Yes, day in and day out. And in college, it's funny because I reflect back and I was like, I felt like I was so confident in those moments. Like I'd wear like these little outfits or whatever the style was back then. I look back on my bodycon dresses. I'm like, what was I doing? But I was feeling myself back then. I mean, good for me. But this was the first time in my life that I had like true confidence, not in the way I looked, but like trusting myself to keep going. And like, I think that was the big thing, was building trust with myself, because before that, I never knew if I was going to finish a project or really do what I said I was going to do. That's my pet peeve now. I hate saying things. if I'm not going to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like
So-
you're not going to try to do anything. You're going to do it or you're not.
Exactly. I'm like a very all or nothing person. And it's because I'm sort of like rebelling against the old version of me, I think. And I'm trying to soften up with that a bit because the mindset that served me in my fitness journey, I needed it then, but I don't need it now. And I'm learning to sort of let go of that.
Yeah.
You know?
So are you super disciplined still?
Yeah. And I wouldn't say as much with fitness anymore. Eating healthy is enjoyable for me. I love cooking. I love exploring with food. I really enjoy it. That's not difficult for me. The workouts, I used to be really intense. Like I used to work out really, really hard 6 days a week. Then I had this whole acne journey, which me and Sami C have talked about a lot, with my hormones and, you know, wanting to have kids. I lost my period for a year after birth control. So I really had to slow down. And it was great for me because it gave me so much perspective on health and how it doesn't have to be exactly what I thought it was. Like I can go for a walk 3 times a week and weightlift twice a week and whatever, you know, switch it up in that way. I'm very controlling with like my work and staying busy, and I have to work on that. I was just telling you guys, like I have such a crazy week and I for some reason shoved it as full as it can possibly be. And you know, I probably do that when I'm feeling out of control because it makes me feel in control.
Like so much structure.
So much structure that I don't have to think about anything that's like causing me pain.
I'm so proud of you. I feel like just hearing your story again, it always is so beautiful of everything that you have stepped into. And there is no perfect way that it can go. And we're doing the best we can in that moment. And I feel like it's just giving ourselves so much grace and compassion of like, take one step at a time. And it's okay if that step looks really gross and messy. I am the queen of messy right now. I feel like 2023 was my messiest year.
Yeah. No, growth comes from mess. Like it doesn't look clean and perfect. Like I was talking to my therapist about that the other day, and I just have so many examples in my life of people who maybe didn't change in the drastic or haven't been through what I've been through. Because I look back on my past and I'm like, it was messy. Like all these crazy things happened, so many ups and downs, but I would not be here right now if it weren't for that. And I also wouldn't be able to share with people. Like I really feel like that's my purpose. I feel like I went through everything I went through to share and connect. I wouldn't have anything to share or connect on if I hadn't been through all of that, if I just kept things easy and the same and consistent, you know? Like we really need to go through it sometimes. That's life. It's messy.
I so agree. It's so for us.
I heard a term recently, post-traumatic growth, and that hit me so hard and identified so much with what you just said, Mari, and that there is a lot of growth that happens from the trauma. And something else I always remind myself is we are not our trauma. It is just a part of us. Like it's not your full identity. And I have a question for you that I'm personally going through too, just with all of our alignment. But you had a large physical transformation years ago.
Yeah.
And I think when we have these really amazing goals and we're constantly chipping away at them, that reward system's really gratifying and it's really amazing. And then you get to this point where you haven't like crossed the finish line. In my mind, like there's no finish line. There's just life and like the lifestyle that comes within it. But you've really maintained such a beautiful life and even have like continued to change within that. How have you done that? Like you are years and years into this journey now. Like we're not just talking about the weight loss now. Like we're talking about your life now. How do you continue to give yourself that self-love every day and maintain everything that you've afforded yourself?
I kind of came from nothing. Like when I started this, I had nothing. I had a front desk job at Orange Theory Fitness making minimum wage. I had nothing to lose. Like I really was starting from nothing. But when you get to a certain level, it's like, okay, the bar is here. Now what? Now what? Now what? Like there's almost this pressure to keep leveling up. And even when I launched my podcast, it was like I have so many more eyes on me. Like this can't fail. And I'm not someone who would do something just for fun. I'm like, I'm doing it full. Like I'm prepping, I'm pushing myself. And it's such a good question. I feel like lately I've really been trying to work on self-awareness, even catching myself this week and being like, why did I feel the need to make myself so busy? And I think it was coming from a place of pain with this big life transition I'm going through. I'm moving to Austin. Something big's happening with my business. I want to get pregnant. Like this big change for me. And I feel sort of this absence because I don't have a super close relationship with my family. And while Greg is sharing everything with his mom and I see other people sharing with their parents, I feel this hole. And I think when I feel the hole, I fill it with stuff and doing stuff. And just catching myself and being aware of that, I feel like is progress to me. And I'm trying to let go. I want to keep having success and I love working and I love what I do, but I'm sort of reframing what success means to me.
What does success mean to you?
She's like, I'm working on it, bitch.